I just live in a state where like video games were always part of my life. Music can do such incredible stuff. Movies can do such incredible stuff, but video games are the combination of all their strengths into one. I think at the end of the day, and why I make content now, I love the idea of what entertainment can do.
I just played every single Rockstar game ever.
What made you start YouTube?
Someone else jumped on top and said like, yeah, he's not gonna start a YouTube channel. Yo, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel today.
How did you end up in construction in the first place?
That was the destiny. I would work from 5 a.m. and work my body to the bone. That's what my destiny is supposed to be.
You're hard on yourself, man.
But I didn't know how broken I was. And I actually never told the story before. And as I'm going up the stairs, my brain, in my voice, says, you should jump.
In this episode, I have a conversation with Zenkai Goose, a Canadian YouTuber and software developer. We discuss his incredible and inspirational story from working in construction to becoming a senior software developer, and then at the same time to becoming a successful gaming content creator with, as of now, over 180,000 subscribers. We talk about the emotional benefits of gaming, the challenges of content creation, and the importance of creativity in the current corporate landscape of the video game industry, and much, much more. And with that said, let's uncover Goose's story. Goose, it's honestly a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you for your time. And I'm really glad to connect with you, glad to chat with you, because throughout the time that I have, looked at your work, looked at your content and some of your social media posts, I really connect to some of the things that you're saying about gaming, about the industry, and, just generally about your love for video games. So I think, there's a lot to talk about, and I'm very excited. But first of all, I think congratulations is due because you had your birthday recently.
I did. I've gotten another year older, and it's the grind never stops,
Exactly. Well, happy belated birthday. From my side, I want to wish you, a lot of success, a lot of happiness, love, luck, all the very best,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. Probably the best question to start off our conversation would be, how did you get into video games? What video game has inspired you to kind of fall in love with the industry? How did you get introduced? What was your first console, your first game, and all that? If you could tell me that story.
Oh, man. I feel like I just live in a state where like video games were always part of my life. Like my first memory of video games that I can possibly think of is my grandma had this old CRT TV. So anytime we'd visit, like basically all the cousins needed something to do while the adults talked. So my grandma like had this CRT TV, and then I don't know who got it because it for sure wasn't her, but someone got an NES. Okay, and the NES had been out for like many years at this point, but that was just the console that was out there. So on the NES there was this game. And for the longest amount of time, I could not tell you the name of this game. I could sing the song that played. It was just a side scroller. And it was something I played constantly there. Like the song was just super addictive. I ended up finding out it was called like Circus Charlie or Charlie Circus, something like that. Played a ton of that, never beat the levels because back then just the levels were super, super difficult. So I get through the first level and the second level and then it's like, it's impossible now. But really, really liked it. And I think that was the main thing where it's just like, it became a bonding mode with the cousins where it's just like, okay, let's try to outdo each other. And then I quickly found out like myself and my brother, I have a little brother, super competitive. So then this started becoming really interesting. And so my dad got in on this and he got kind of hooked. And back then, the nice thing about the video games back then, kind of a huge benefit for the video games back then is it was a D-pad, start, select, A, B. Like that's it. Yeah. At least on the NES. So my dad was not, he wasn't afraid of it. I mean, it's like 5 buttons. So he got an NES, and then we got really into Dr. Mario of all things. Of course,
Okay.
played Mario back in the day, but like Dr. Mario was pretty huge. But then it was just like, oh, okay, we should probably get the new one. Like, we should probably jump into the Super Nintendo. And then I think what that did was it started creating a connection of like the idea of a video game generation. That became so influential to me where, you know, my friends would get a Genesis and then we got the Super Nintendo. And I didn't think too hard about it, but then you'd have it one more time and we go into the 3D generation with the N64 and the PlayStation. And then I had to make a decision. Well, do I keep going with Nintendo or do I go with this new PlayStation thing? And then it started creating this idea of like this tribal idea of like, which team do you pick? And so, what's the better bang for your buck? That's what it came from back then. I mean, I had no money. I was just a kid. I used to mow lawns. I came up with any type of like deal I could do around the neighborhood to try to make some type of money. So N64 was the direction I went. And then again, we'd have another one with the next generation, the GameCube, PS2, and the Xbox, of course. And I'll
Mhm.
never forget, like, I went N64. So I was in this Nintendo mindset. So we got a GameCube, we got Super Smash. It was amazing. My brother and I, again, super competitive. Super Smash Melee was incredible. We loved it on the N64. It made sense. But I went over to my cousin's house, and I'll never forget this. Like, they had, I was used to like GoldenEye and stuff like that. So I got that, and that was pretty popular with all my friends and family. But I went to my cousin's house one day, and it was like one of these things where my mom visited her sister, and they were talking. It's like, oh, the kids go in the basement, they go play games. All right, no problem. So we go down there, and they got this like giant looking black box, and the
Okay.
controller was huge.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they had like, I guess they had 4 controllers. For some reason, I don't know why they did, but they did. Of course, there were the Mad Catz controllers, like the weird third-party controllers.
Yeah.
And we play this game called Halo, and we play the multiplayer. And so in the multiplayer, there was this thing where you could create your own character, which, because it wasn't my game, I didn't create a character. But there were 2 profiles that were default. It was like default and then inverted. One guy was black and the other guy was silver. I picked the silver guy. It just happened to be inverted, and from that point on, I was an invert player for first-person shooters. From that, I didn't even know. I just thought that's what it was like. Anyways, that I got hooked. I couldn't believe how fun it was. The
Mhm.
split-screen multiplayer, the world of Halo, and I'd always been super into video games from like a fun aspect. But I want to say that like there's certain seminal games where when I played them, I went, oh, this is the next level. And that's when I started getting super hooked to this idea of like, this is the revolution. And the thing that was really nice about the games back then um, is because it was so new, the revolution, like the exponential revolution, became frequent. Like like they were figuring it out left and right.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you'd get a game like Super Mario 64, just like blowing your mind with the 3D.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden that started becoming more normal. And then you got like Ape Escape on the PlayStation, which I love. But then on like Halo, they completely make first person shooters like natural on a controller. That was just like, I was used to GoldenEye, and going from GoldenEye to Halo, you're like, brother,
Yeah.
y'all killed it over here. Like, there was something in the water with the way they did it because of the controller, but like over here, y'all figured it out. So I remember being like, whoa, this is insane. And then my brother decided to go down the PlayStation direction, and I was from that point, from the Xbox point, like when I first touched Halo, that's when I got this like green light where I was just like, there's no need to be tribal. I want them all. Like from this point, like the experience, I wanted to experience everybody's. Like it didn't matter. So I would save up all the money I had to get all the consoles. And from that point on, I did get all the consoles I could. So, you know, the PlayStation 2, the library, I mean, Grand Theft
Oh my
Auto
God.
3 blew my mind. Vice City blew
Absolutely.
my mind.
Yeah.
Halo, of course, like even games that like I started opening my mind to things that originally I didn't like. Like back in the day on the GameCube, everyone was hating on Wind Waker, including myself. Like we came from Ocarina and we said like, "Yo, I mean, y'all killed it here. What are we doing?" But then I remembered, like, just jump into it. You didn't know what like Halo was, whatever. Let's just jump into it.
Right.
I tried it, and Wind Waker is like one of my favorites of all time. It's just I started just loving games and what games could do for people. And then from
Hmm.
every generation from there, I would always try to buy every console. Of course, as time went on, I grew up, I would get, more stable jobs, I would get a career, so it'd be easier and easier. But man, I'll never forget, like, even saving up for like the PS3, because that was the second one I got. I got the
Hmm.
360 and the PS3 in the next generation. Yo, that thing was expensive, dude.
Oh yeah.
Like that, I remember saving
Oh
up a
yeah.
while for that because back in the day, I used to work in construction, and video games were the thing, kind of, pardon me, keeping me sane. Because effectively, construction, it was a lot of physical. So, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning. We'd go to the work site. We'd do our work. Uh, where I worked, we didn't really take lunch breaks. We just kind of like pushed right through it. So then I'd work until like 5, 6 p.m. If you finished at 5, you get home at 6 p.m. just based off where I lived, because I lived in a small rural town of Canada. And I remember just video games were the way that I could relax, especially back then with the internet the way it wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. But that stuff, like, you'd come home and you'd play Skyrim. You'd come home
Oh
and
God.
you
Those were
play
the days.
Saints Row the Third. It didn't,
Oh
or
yeah.
like XCOM, like any of these games. I'd come home and I'd just be like mind blown, and then I had no one to talk to about it. So I remember podcasts becoming huge in my life, especially in 2007. I got in, I got so deep into podcasts because
Oh
when
wow.
I'd be in construction, certain things were kind of boring. I operated lots of heavy equipment, so like backhoes and like trucks and stuff like that. It can get boring.
Right.
And I plowed snow for the city during the winters.
Oh wow.
So I did all that stuff, and podcasts kind of kept my brain going. And then I had someone to talk to because people liked playing games with me growing up. No one liked discussing the intricacies of how Microsoft's going to outdo
Right.
Sony and how Nintendo's going to come out of nowhere with this like, I love that stuff.
Right.
Because, and I think at the end of the day, and why I make content now, I love the idea of like what entertainment can do. There's so many
Mm.
moments in my life where the game just goes from like a couple pixels on screen to getting me through really difficult points in my life, or um you know I mean, anything like that. It, like, I went through a thing that I shared in one of my videos where my dog, so I moved to one of like three big cities in Canada. My dog just happened to have a disc in his back snap. It just like
Oh
pushed
God.
out, made him
Hmm.
paralyzed. And
Hmm.
I caught it the second it happened. I'll never forget the time it happened. And thankfully, because I caught it so fast, I rushed him to the emergency room, and I bring him in. It's a whole scene. I may have been loud. Um,
Yeah. I would imagine. Yeah.
I was very emotional. Yeah. So I did that, and then it was like a waiting game. I had to see, and like, is he gonna make it? I didn't know. And I go more into depth into the video, but like that was tough. And I
Yeah.
remember, like, not to sound cliche, but Spider-Man came out on the PS4 the exact same time, and I was like, I have nothing to do. And that's the beauty of video games, where it's just like they can just suck you into this world, and it's like music can do such incredible stuff, movies can do such incredible stuff, you know, but video games are the combination of all their strengths into one. Plus, you're controlling it. I find it just sticks with you. So that helped me get through that stuff in a way that like I couldn't, like, it would be so tough. I think the beauty of that, like, video games, is incredible. But even from the idea of like, there's no reason if I said, you know, like, there's two games that come to mind. There's no reason if I said I'm gonna make you play a game where you control just the left thumbstick and it's gonna be super addictive, you're never gonna put it down. But like, yet I played Vampire Survivors last year for the first time, and it's just a simple little game, simple little 2D game, great soundtrack, but you only control the left thumbstick. It auto attacks, it does everything for you. And yet it's addictive. And
Yeah.
the science of that, the psychology of that, I love it. And
Yeah.
then the second game would be Tetris. This
Oh, for
that
sure.
shouldn't be fun. but yet it's so much fun.
But it
Tetris
is,
is one of my
yeah.
favorite games of all time.
Mm.
So I guess just the power of video games and like what they can do for the people um is incredible. And not even from like a perspective of like psychology or the perspective of getting you through a hard time, but the inspiration. There's so many people who like play these games are like, yo, I want to do that. And that's what I did coming from a construction background in a small town where I was like, I don't think I don't think I'm meant to do this software development thing. I don't think it's in the cards over here. But I loved video games so much and just thinking about them and just dreaming these things that I was like, I'll try. And then I ended up trying and then became a senior software developer at a big tech company, and I felt pretty good about it. Like it worked out.
No, for
So
sure. For sure.
without video games, I just don't know if that would be possible.
Hmm. That is, truly an amazing answer. I connect so deeply to a lot of the things that you've just said. As you know, especially about the fact that it was introduced in a family scenario without you kind of knowing what it is, and you kind of just dug into it, thinking, basically from your curiosity, right?
Yeah.
If to me, for example, if I were to think of certain, you know, times in my life where perhaps things were a bit difficult, I can straight away recall what game I was playing.
Oh yeah.
It's like that. I mean, whatever console I've went through all the PlayStation consoles and all the um, Xbox consoles, except for the first Xbox. Couldn't get my hands on that, and obviously was the first couple of consoles were just kind of my parents, my uncles actually. What's it called, like hobby, and I just kind of took over a little bit. But yeah, all these games, and to each one of us, it's different games that bring different emotions. And I agree with you that that's kind of what also motivated me to continue playing. And I've
Mm-hmm.
spoken about this also in previous with my previous guests. I consider video games truly as a work of art. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really see it as a negative thing. It's a truly work of art, be it if it's a solo developer or if it's a group of people that are making it. Whenever people, if people are negligent
Mm-hmm.
towards the video game industry, I really encourage them to kind of dig in a little bit and find
Yeah.
out kind of what it takes to make a game. It is
Yeah.
incredibly difficult. Now, think about making it back in the early 90s or late 90s.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, for sure. That is absolutely incredible. And talking about like, addictive games, remember Flappy Bird, right? Just have to,
Yeah.
just one click and that's it. And it took over the world, right?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, games are definitely very powerful. Um, so you mentioned your background in construction. I kind of want to go into that a little bit.
Yeah.
My question would be, well, let me start with this one first. Um, how did you end up in construction in the first place?
Oh man. So in the that's a great question. So basically,
Thank
in my neck of the woods, a small town in Canada, with my family, like that's just where you ended up. Like that's
you. Okay,
just the thing. Like you'd
I see.
be in either construction building houses, you'd be in construction road construction,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be uh I mean, you'd be in construction. Like that was the thing. You'd
I
be in the
see.
like specifically road construction, which is what I was in. So building roads, driveways, all those things. You'd be in that, and then during the winter season, because it is Canada, you get a lot of snow.
Right.
You'd transition from the fall to you'd wait for the snow, and then you'd just start plowing either driveways or cities, depending on where you can get it. Your work. So you do that, and that was the destiny. That was what, like, there was no question growing up. I was like, I guess I'll do that. In fact, I remember coming out of high school. I remember sitting with my guidance counselor, and you had to do this talk with guidance counselor, and they're like, what are you picking in college? And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to college. I don't know what I want to be, so I guess I'll just work. I'll work in construction. And I remember just the look of disgust. I was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah, yeah.
you're making a mistake. This is the biggest mistake in your life, and construction isn't easy. And it's interesting because I have some people through my content that find me and they hear that I worked in construction and they go, I'm in similar boots and I kind of want to do software too, like, but I'm behind. And what I would say to those people is that construction is actually kind of a superpower,
Hmm.
because when I would eventually go to college, when I would quit, which was scary. Like I just lived off my savings for like
Yeah. Oh,
years.
I can only
Um,
imagine.
it I was nervous. I went into college and I was behind a billion math books. I had to rush through all that stuff and then get into the computer science space. And then I got in, and I was so nervous because, like, here's these people. Like, I'm years behind because I went to construction, and I'm just this small town kid. Like, to me, I just thought of myself as like a country bumpkin. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just I like games. I can bond with y'all there, but I didn't think I could keep up. And then I quickly found out that like skills can be learned.
Hmm.
Skills can be learned, and you can learn them as fast as you want. Um, and the beauty of construction that I found out was in a world where I would work from 5 a.m. and work my body to the bone to like some of the hottest summers in Canada. We have insanely humid summers, get up to like 45 degrees with humidity, Celsius, of course. And some of the coldest winters when you're like plowing snow at like 4 a.m. because people need to go to work and it's like freezing rain and your
Oh
truck can
God.
barely even like drive. It's slipping and
Yeah.
sliding everywhere and you're getting into accidents, but you're the guy that has to clean it up.
Hmm.
Or you're on top of the sander trying to break a bunch of sand. I know not a lot of people can relate to that, but it was the worst. They'd be frozen solid. I'd be
Yeah.
trying to break them in the middle of the night, and you're alone. No one's there. Your body's breaking, and then you'd finish your day at whatever. Like you work ridiculous hours. But now put that into a college case where you just have to sit down and read a book and listen to a bunch of teachers tell you about some skills to
I
learn.
see.
Well, I was like, yo, okay, I'll just work forever and do this stuff. And so that's what
I
ended up
see.
happening. And then very
Hmm.
quickly, I found myself on top of I was on top of I was getting the highest grades. And it came relatively easy to me because I would just consume it up. Now, I did have weaknesses, but overall, like, I, they couldn't hold a candle. They'd be complaining they got like 20 projects. And I'd be like, I, I literally worked 12 hours before coming this. Like, I'm used to that life. I don't want to go back. So I'm hungry. I know what real work is. And so I was able to eat that stuff up. So what I would say to people in the same situation is like, it's a superpower, man. Like once you've gone through a lot of hardship, like people don't know what they don't know. And the people who've gone through it know how much easier it is to just sit and read. Like it may take you longer, that doesn't matter, but it's not painful in the way that working like 12 hours in like 40-degree heat
Of
with like
course. Yeah.
work boots that weigh like 5 pounds on each foot. It's not fun.
Yeah.
So
I
that
would
ended up
imagine.
being like a superpower. And I would just heavily stress to anyone feeling like they want to make that jump that like, man, you'll eat them alive. It's
Right.
insane.
Right.
In a
Right.
good
Right.
way. Be nice, of course, but
No, 100%. That's very motivational, honestly. Very respectable on your end, and definitely something to take an example from for anybody who's in the same shoes as you said. Um, my question would be why, from all directions or from all potential, let's say, learning experiences, you went for software development, which is the complete opposite, right? I mean, there's
yeah.
business, there's marketing, there's finance, there's bunch of other things. But you went for software development. You probably knew beforehand that it requires a lot of reading, like you mentioned, a lot of maths, which
Yeah.
probably is a skill that not everybody possesses, but people will have to learn, right? It's not,
Yeah.
I would assume it's not, basic school math there. So what made you go that route? Is it only video games, or was there a bigger picture?
It was mostly video games, but I
Hmm.
like when I first went from construction to computer science in college, I started in 2012, and I was thinking about it a year before that. I was like, I don't know, I kind of want to do
I
this,
see.
and so I was looking into it, and it was a like, well, I want to do video games, and so for me to do video games, I would need to learn this anyways. And right now, the way I see it, at least back then in 2010, like when Facebook was like really starting to explode, it seemed like a relatively safe bet for my career. I was like, okay, well, I can always fall back. I'm a big proponent of like have a fallback. So it's like if
Hmm.
software development didn't work, I could always fall back on construction. I was operating many vehicles. I was managing teams like in construction. Like I just wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And then in software development, the idea was to go one step further. into video games. And then if that didn't work, if I didn't like that, I could fall back, because there was also the dark truth that I heard a bit about back then, but I would grow to learn more as you get more into the industry, where it's just like software development and game development are completely different. They use similar tools, but like it's not the same. The way the lessons you learn in software development are the complete antithesis of what you use in game development to just squeeze
Really?
performance. It's like you'll learn a bunch of stuff about how to make clean code in software development for the Googles, the Microsofts, all that stuff. Game development will just erase it. They do completely weird
Oh,
things
wow.
that, like, the first time I ran into that stuff, I was like, whoa, that you're not supposed to do that. And that was like very interesting for me.
Wow.
And it fluctuates, but like that was my experience. And then of course on top of that, in the video game space, in the software space, like the pay is very different. Software development people are paid very well, not only in salary but in stock. I mean, Google stock is going to pay more than like Ubisoft stock,
Oh,
especially now.
especially now.
Yeah. See. So,
That was a good one, yeah.
aside from salary, like people, like I always tried to think, what's the best bang for my buck? Like if I'm going to put myself through all this hardship, what will work for me? So, and I focused mostly on software development as I went on. I didn't do as much video game stuff as I originally thought. I just focused more on software development because I ended up liking it. All software development really is just it's problem solving and logic, which is really, really interesting. There's some other complex stuff, but like that's like proficiency on top of it, specialization, and like people like for anyone listening who's like, I want to do that, I don't know if I can. It's like the equivalent of like going to the gym, being like, I don't want to lift this dumbbell and then get an instant giant bicep. It's like you'll be lifting it a few times before you get there. So
Right,
don't
I
worry about
see.
that. It
I
doesn't just
see.
happen.
Interesting. Yeah, that's truly very interesting. I didn't know that there was such a big difference between software development and game development. What I did hear is that the working hours are quite tough in some companies in game development, and one of my previous guests, he opted to create his own indie studio and kind of work by himself in his own time
Yeah.
and get paid less rather than actually work I don't know, maybe 9, 10 hours or 12 hours a day and get paid much less, but be part of a bigger game. So it's a bit of a hit or miss. Then I definitely understand that. What I want to touch upon is, I remember in one of your videos you mentioned this one teacher that really was not into you. Let's put it lightly.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want to talk about this is because that made me think kind of about my school and my university times. And maybe you'll agree with me. Around 90% of the teachers that I thought were bad, or I thought were, douchebags, let's say, when I grew older, I was like, you know what? Probably I was being a bit of a douchebag myself. There were okay teachers, actually. They're probably having a bad day. But
Yeah.
around 10% of them, or maybe 5% of those teachers, really were really, truly evil, probably. I can, at least in my experience. I had this one teacher that was, just a quick story. I was really late. I was changing schools, and I was 3 weeks late to my new school. And I failed all the quizzes, failed all the tests, failed everything in the first semester. So I got all Fs basically, and my parents were a little bit concerned, but they knew why this happened. And this teacher basically said, look, get prepared to your expulsion and kind of think of other schools to go to because you're not going to make it.
Really?
And I told him, like, listen, you know my situation. I was a little bit late, but don't worry, I'm going to catch up. And he told me in my face, he said, there is no chance in hell that you can get your grades above C with what you have right now. And little did he know, by the end of the next semester, I had all amazing grades. I was working as much as I could, and everything was fine after that. But I went to him and I said, look, told you so. But
Yeah.
there's many other instances where this teacher was a bit of an evil person. So how did you, first of all, what did that teacher do? And how did you cope with that?
Yeah. So for context, when I went to college for computer science, you run into a core set of professors to help you, like for your different courses and stuff like that. And this guy was not really everyone's favorite. He did have his moments where he was funny, but he was the type of guy to always over ask and then always have to be begged to push the, due date for whatever. Like always. It was like a meme. He'd be like, "Yeah, I need this project for, like it's due in 1 week." And we'd be like, "What?" And then we'd all grind to go do it. And then we'd get to the due date and we'd be like, "Yo, it is impossible." And it wouldn't just be like, the slacker saying that. It'd be like myself and like the highest, grade student, like the people I was rolling with, they weren't any slouches either. And we would be like, "Yo, it cannot be done. Like, I'm trying." This is like a guy who's like willing to grind.
Yeah.
And so it would always get pushed. And so he always had this like friction with the students. But he had his moments for like humor and such. Like he tried to bond
Pretend.
with the students,
Okay,
I'll say,
I
in
see.
other ways that teachers normally wouldn't. Like, so he tried to be the cool teacher, just had that problem.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, he'd just throw a couple zingers that would be like, why are you demeaning us like that?
This guy.
And for context, me inside, like, I was raised in a way that was like respect was king. And it's like, you never disrespected anyone. Like one of my oldest memories I can remember is like my dad is passing me while I'm like 5 years old. He's passing me in the backyard. I'm on the swing, just, I'm swinging, I'm doing my little kid thing. And he's like, "You gonna rake the lawn?" And I go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Like I just go like one of these, like, "Yeah, yeah."
Uh-oh.
Yo, that it's like I invited Satan into the house. Like that was not good. So those things are very big to me. And so when I was in school, as far as professors saw, like it was like, "Yes, sir," and "Yes, ma'am," and like, "No problem, thank you, of course, absolutely, I'll get that done." With my friends, it was different, but with like seniority, I always treated them with the utmost respect, and I didn't really talk much aside from that. And once you get enough high grades in college every year, you continue to do that. There is a giant award. I don't remember the exact award, but it's named after someone, a woman. And they give this award at the like every year, and it comes with, I think, some money too, like a
Oh,
cash
wow.
prize.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like $200 or something like that, which is nice.
That's
If you're
something.
a student, you're looking for it. Yeah,
It's a few
exactly.
games.
So I'll never forget, I got it, and
Nice.
I was told that I got it, and I'm in my third year, and I'm really grinding, and now you're starting to get a little tension because you're trying to figure out where you're going to go after college. Like you're trying to figure out what's the job you're going to go, what's the direction, but I remember just thinking of where I came from. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be atop of the course. I shouldn't be getting these awards. I shouldn't be getting any form of this recognition. I should be in construction, and I should be, I should have a shovel, and I should be putting some stone into a driveway or raking it. I should be doing something like that. Like that's what my destiny is supposed to be.
You're hard on yourself,
And
man.
and so I get this award. I get told, and he specifically is the one who tells me. He pulls me aside, and he's like, "Hey, I just want you to know, like this award, this prestigious award, it's going to be offered to you." And I just remember it all flashed back, and I just like thought about like how far I came, and like I have these moments where I just kind of like lose myself, and I go, "Whoa!" Like you went through the distance. Because one thing about humans is we're not really great at recognizing when we did some stuff. It's always just like, "Oh, today sucks. Tomorrow, I got so much to do." Like it's never like, "Today's a good day. I don't have a cold,"
Right.
which I wish I. But as soon as I was just like in the zone thinking of like, wow, like you really, really did this. This is incredible. I can't believe you achieved this. I'll never forget. He just taps me on the shoulder and he goes, "But you don't deserve it." And I was just
What
like,
a douchebag this guy, man.
I remember it all just fell apart. Like it was all broken to me. Like everything I struggled for, it all went away.
Terrible.
And yeah, and just the reason was there was a student in the course who had half the course load. So you'd have 8 courses, which was a lot, to be honest. And this student already went to college in a different program. So when they came back for computer science, they had half the course load. So they didn't need to do 8 courses, they did 4. And this student was like kind of goated at theory, but not at practice, like practicals. So these are like your projects or your final exams. I was goated at practicals.
Mhm.
Theory, I was like above average. I hated theory. Theory is never my favorite thing. I hate memorizing things. I'd rather just like put me in, try to solve a problem. I'm good at that.
Mhm.
And his whole thing was like that student deserves it, not you. But what he didn't know was I was doing that student's practicals behind the
No
scenes.
way.
So I was doing
No
my
way.
work, their work, and it's just like
Awesome.
the point was it just didn't need to be said. And I have so
100%.
many run-ins with professors, oddly enough, where weird stuff like that happens. I had this case in high school, and for whatever reason, I have this like mental switch. I couldn't tell you why. It's probably a toxic mental switch. But as soon as I feel disrespected, this switch just turns off, and then it's just like you get nothing from me, which is probably not great. But like I'll never forget in high school.
Well, it's a defense mechanic for yourself, huh?
Yeah, I guess. But I had this course in high school. It was for economics, and I tried my hardest. I loved the idea of economics. I wanted to learn as much, and I'll never forget. I tried so hard. I made I think it was like a sheet full of 10 pages of notes that I
Oh,
hand
God.
wrote from the
Oh,
books.
man.
And then I was psycho. I had a voice recorder. I recorded myself saying it, and then I just listened to it over and over and over and over. I never stopped.
Oh, my
And then I
God.
did the exam. And the exam was it was the first exam of the year. It was probably like in the first month or two, and it was worth like a good chunk. It was like 10, 15%, maybe 20% of the
It's not
grade.
bad.
And I'll never forget the test ended up being one of these like, yeah, we didn't talk about it in class, but if you know the stuff, then you should know this. It's like
Oh,
little
my
curveballs,
God.
right?
Yes.
So I'll never forget. I did it, and then
The
I found
worst.
out that I failed. I got like a 40% or something on it.
Oof.
And then I was just like, I did the work. I grinded. You threw me a curveball. This is rigged. And then I
Yeah.
found out the course was an elective. Like I didn't need it to graduate.
Okay,
I
thank
said,
God. Yeah.
the brain shut off. I never did a single project ever again. The professor hated me. There was
Yeah.
not a good relationship. I don't recommend that direction, but that was just the way my my brain was. I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not putting any effort towards this if you're going to make the goal impossible.
I
Like,
wouldn't blame you for that.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people, they don't want to deal with that either. Maybe they don't take it the same way, but it's at the end of the day, like, our lives are difficult enough. And from my experience, skills are teachable. You can teach anyone anything that is a skill. It doesn't matter where you're from. If I put the time and effort into it, I feel like any student can learn anything. And when it comes to economics, like, this is all like, it's supply demand. It's not like
Yeah,
rocket
basically.
science here.
Mm.
So it shouldn't be difficult. And for whatever reason, like, some professors want to make this, they want to feel, I don't know, I can't speak for them, but from my perspective, it feels like they want to feel superior.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, more power to you. But I just think, like, when you think of the investment of what that student, like, you never know what that student could become.
Absolutely.
And that idea, like, empowers me. Like, it's like, I try to help as many people as I can, even in YouTube. It's just like, I'll tell them, like, yo, you should change your thumbnail. You should do this title. You should do this because, like, I've been through your mistakes. I don't want you to go through that. And this is why. And this is what I would do. And so I don't like people, like, holding that information. And I guess it just made me super triggered to that. And I always try to help people wherever I can. Same thing with
understand.
software development. Just, I want people to get ahead. Like, it's a net positive if everybody gets ahead. Like,
Right.
everybody wins. So that's my
100%.
thought process.
I'm really delirious as to why, teachers like that exist. I mean, from all professions, if you're a teacher, that's not the way you should be. And really, what you mentioned about the fact that, well, you don't know what this kid could have been is
Yep.
actually a good point that you brought up, because for the longest in my, studying career, or during my school and early uni years, I had no idea what I wanted to do. No
Yep.
idea. But I was like forced to go study, and I did it. And it all started with economics and finance. Gosh, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. But obviously, I had to do the work. And so after the first year of uni, we could take one extra course, and I took marketing. I was like, what's the easiest thing? And everyone said, yeah, go for marketing. And so I went into marketing. And just to, tell a long story short, I ended up changing my major towards marketing. Then I did my bachelor's and my master's in marketing. And now I work in marketing, all because of that one teacher and that one homework. So I did this homework without paying attention, kind of that I'm doing a good job. And in front of the whole class, she's like, this kid over here is really good at marketing, and this kid over here should continue his marketing career in marketing. And then she says my name, and she gives me like A star with 3 stars. I was like, what is going on? I felt like I was lifted up by the angels, you know?
Isn't it
And my,
crazy how powerful it can be when
oh,
someone just like
absolutely.
recognizes you and just like you have potential? I think that's like something everybody wants to hear at least once. And if you
A
haven't,
hundred
that is the
percent.
most heartbreaking thing. But when someone can say, yo, you have potential, it just kickstarts this ladder of like,
A hundred
okay, well, I
percent.
go to the next person who can get me to the next level, next level. And it's just like this, it feels so good to be good at something. I think that's
Yeah.
what people want to do. At the end of the day, I'm of the belief that humans are hardwired just to solve problems. The question is, what's your problem you want to solve? And it just takes one person to just be like, you're really good at this problem. And you go, this is my thing. And then you jump into it. Not to say that'll be your thing forever, but man, it gives you so much happiness when you're solving problems and it's like, I did it. I figured it out. And man,
A
it's
hundred
it's
percent.
awesome.
And it's really true when they say that if you do what you like doing, it doesn't feel like work. It feels
Yeah.
like you're just, really having, not having fun, but you're doing something that engages you in a positive way. And my life changed. I went into marketing, the whole new world opened, all thanks to this teacher. So, teachers, if you're listening, please be kind. Be kind and don't be, those, don't throw curveballs. But yeah, that was very interesting to know. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now you're doing YouTube. You're obviously
Yes.
very successful. You've been at it for a few years.
Thank
Um,
you.
what made you start YouTube? So you were in construction, and then you totally
Yeah.
pivoted. You went to study. It was extremely difficult. You got an amazing job in a
Yeah.
software company. You're doing great, right? And then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna try YouTube. And I mean, you're doing great at YouTube as well, right? So what sparked the YouTube interest?
Man, that's a fantastic question. And that's what's like
Thank you.
super cool about like finding just like going down a direction. You just find these
Hmm.
little paths. And going into software development, I ended up joining this security company. And it was like, when you're starting out, you're just like, I'll do whatever I can.
Yeah.
And so I joined the security company and I get hired with a group of people. It just happened to be the same day. And we have to do training and stuff. And I find out that one person that got hired is on my team, my new team. And this guy was awesome. He was a great guy. He loved video games. We're about the same age. We bonded super quickly. And then we joined the team. And I meet my new team. Ended up being like the gang for the next few years. And we bond. Of course, software development and gaming. I mean, they're pretty close together. So it was suddenly this was weird, like to me, because like now I went from a place where the conversations would be about the weather and what coffee you wanted to you know yo, did you try the new Mass Effect? Like, what did you think? And it's like, I'll never forget my manager trying to do Pokemon Go back in the day. It's like, we got to
Right.
go here. There's a gym. And I was like, yo, like, this is new for me. And, and what was cool about this one guy who got hired the same day as me, is he had a YouTube channel. And this guy, he was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna just try making YouTube videos. So he did vacuum reviews, he did tech reviews. Bro went all over the block
Right.
until one day he just finds this thing where he does he takes a character in a video game, an open world video game, and he just walks through the whole map and then puts it on like he speeds it up.
Okay,
And
interesting.
he
I've seen
he
those
he
videos.
yeah, exactly. So it might be one of his. So he does this, it explodes, and
Oh my.
like he's so talented in that he immediately understood he hit a market, and so he just like doubled down. He completely unlists everything that the vacuums are out. The speed running thing, the speed walking is in. So he does like 7 of those, 8 of those, whatever, and he starts getting a following. Starts
Wow.
blowing up, and then he starts figuring out his new flow, and now he does like a bunch of Grand Theft Auto stuff. No voiceover, no nothing. Honestly, he's living the YouTuber dream.
Right.
Straight up just plays GTA. But he would constantly meme on us in the office. He'd be like, you guys should do YouTube. Why aren't you guys doing YouTube? And then we would be like, I don't know what to do. So one day, I forget what he said, because he had some good zingers. He'd hit you with some zingers, and you'd be like, yo, stop trolling. And so he hit me with a zinger one day, I think, for YouTube. And I think someone else jumped on top and said, like, Yeah, he's not gonna start a YouTube channel.
I
And
see.
then just the goldfish brain in me, like it was just like Marty McFly being called a chicken. It was like, yo, I'm gonna
That's
start a
it.
YouTube channel today. So
There we
the
go.
growing meme in the office at the time was I was huge into Dragon Ball Z. So I
Yeah,
bring it
yeah,
up as a meme. You know, it's like there'd be a moment where, you know, someone would talk about something and I'd bring up some like, and this is to go beyond in a reference to like Goku going Super Saiyan 3 or something like that. And I would just drop these little things and people would be, what are you talking about? To me, I was just like trolling, so it was funny. So I was like, oh, I know. This is 2019. I was like, I'll make a channel about Dragon Ball. This
Right.
is good. And I remember I would watch a bunch of Watch Mojo videos,
Oh
the
yeah.
top 10s. And what I hated was they would get so many views for Dragon Ball, but I hated it. Just felt like it was AI written back then. So
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I was like, this doesn't feel like it's authentic to Dragon Ball. It's not written by a fan. So I was like, I'll do that. Top 10s are easy. So I was like, okay, I'll make a Dragon Ball channel. I'll make them top 10s and I'll just do that. And I was like, okay, I need a name. I was like, okay, well, I am Canadian. I want to represent Canada. So I was like, okay, I'll put that on the board. Canada. Okay. And then I was like, we're going to be talking about Dragon Ball. So Dragon Ball, put that on the board. And I started thinking about things about Dragon Ball. I'm like, okay, Dragon Ball, Goku, Super Goku XX or whatever. I'm like, nah, it's not gonna work. And then I remembered there was this concept in Dragon Ball that I loved, and it was like in Dragon Ball, the main characters are Saiyans. It's an alien race. They're kind of like humans. They get super strong, but they have this thing that's innate inside of their character. It's called the Zenkai Boost. The idea is
see.
whenever they
Okay.
get brought down to, like, they get beaten to a pulp, so long as they get back up, they will always come back stronger. I loved this idea and it just hit me and it just like, it always stuck with me. It resonated with every decision I ever made because I changed careers. Like, it was like, my life was difficult, but I always kept going. So I got stronger. I was like, it has to be this. Zenkai Boost, good. And then I'm thinking Canada. Okay, what is Canada? Got the beaver. Not a fan of that. And then Canada Goose. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like that's a big thing. People know that. And I'm like, okay, well, Zenkai Boost, Canada Goose, Zenkai Goose. Let's just do that. And I did
Awesome.
that. And originally it was the colors of like I really like the movie Drive. So back then, like the blue and pink. So the logo was
Yeah.
blue and pink. And so I do Dragon Ball stuff. I do 3 videos right out the gate. Your boy doesn't miss 3 videos. Boom.
Straight
They're
away.
in. And then I'm like, this is hard. Like I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to do anything. The voiceovers
Yeah,
were
yeah, yeah.
horrible. They like I had no like sound treatment or anything like that, and I didn't have a good mic. So like everything just sounded bad, and it was all bad, and it was like 3-minute videos, 4-minute videos. So I quit. Right? I
I
quit,
see.
and I don't go back to it. Then cut a year later, we're in 2020. The world changes. The
Yeah.
world changes quite considerably. And in Canada,
Lightly put.
the lockdowns were insane. Insane. Like, to the point where I was losing my mind. Like, I was legit going insane. Specifically in winter, because daylight savings and stuff, like,
Right.
just the amount of sunlight you get is, like, nil.
Yeah.
And then, so you do your shift. You'd start in darkness, finish in darkness, and then you'd be locked down, so you couldn't do anything. And it was winter, so it's not like you're going to do something over Saturday or Sunday because it's cold. What are you going to do? I wasn't a big snowboarder or skier, so I wasn't going to do it. And I like was miserable during that period. So then we get to January of 2021. I'm losing my mind. The only thing that's fun to me is ordering Uber Eats. I'm
Right.
like, yo, we can't just keep doing food for fun. That's not a great thing. I was gaining weight like you wouldn't believe. It wasn't working. I was like, let's go back. Let's do this Dragon Ball thing.
I
So I
see.
go back and I decide, you know what? Every week we put out a video, Dragon Ball video. So I did that. Every week I released one video. And it was originally about the Dragon Ball books that were coming out for the new show. So I'm going through that. Then I'm doing top 10s to do that. And they're not getting any traction. They're also
Right.
not the type of people that I would bond with because it was about this new anime culture where I was more just Dragon Ball Z, big dudes with muscles shooting energy blasts. I thought that was cool. So it wasn't the same person. So I wasn't having as much fun. And I was tired. and I'll never forget. Now, in April of 2020, I'm watching Invincible, the show.
That's a good show.
Comes out on Amazon. Fantastic show.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm watching it, and I'm watching it weekly, and I'm just like, this is an amazing show. And the whole time, like much like everybody else, I'm like, dude, Omni-Man is like just like Superman. This is awesome. He's killing it.
Yeah.
And then I get a little light bulb, and I go, whoa, has anyone done Omni-Man versus Goku? Has anyone made that video? And so I started YouTubing it. No one did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, when's the finale of this show? So I start looking it up. Okay, I got 4 weeks. So I go, oh, I can time this for the finale. In theory, this should work. I didn't know how to do YouTube properly back then. So
Yeah.
that made no sense, but it also made a lot of sense.
Yeah. I understand.
So I basically, I went down, I started researching everything I could about the character. I started researching everything. Well, I knew a lot about Goku, so I didn't worry. And I built this new type of video, Goku versus Omni-Man. And I released it probably a Saturday. That's usually what I do. And so I release it. Nothing happens. I go, cool. I tried. I did my thing. Great thumbnail. I loved it. Even today, I'd say it was a good thumbnail. And then the next day I wake up, it's got 10,000 views. And this for me, that's a big deal.
Wow.
10,000 views. I'm like, whoa, overnight? And it immediately skyrockets me to 1,000 subscribers in the morning.
Wait, in 24 hours?
In 24 hours.
Oh my
I go from
goodness.
like, I was at like 128 or something. So I go to 1,000.
Wow.
And I won't lie. I remember talking to people about my channel because I'd put so much effort every week. I was just grinding, trying to think of a topic, putting it in, editing it. I didn't talk to anyone. Of course, with the lockdowns and stuff, couldn't see anyone. I remember being in tears because it was that moment again, like with the professor. I did it. I'm not supposed to do this. Doesn't make any sense for me to do this, but I did it. So immediately, it lifts me off to 3K subscribers and 400,000 views on the video. I get my first viral video. I'm thrilled. I get monetized. I didn't get any money from that video because, I had to wait. But I'm thrilled. I did it. Because all I'm thinking is, they love me. Yeah. I'm a god. That is the wrong idea to have with your first viral video. Because effectively what a viral is they love the idea a lot. Right. They do not like you. They haven't seen you enough to like you. Especially with my Dragon Ball videos, I wasn't on camera. I was just talking. So I was like, I'll put out another video, but it's going to be a top 10 because that's what I do. And they love me now. So I put out a top 10. It bombs. Gets like 1,000 views. It gets a slight bump, but it pretty much bombs based off what I expected. I was like, I'm in the 500,000 gang now. Let's go. Champagne bottles. Let's go. And I get a very rude awakening and a very hurtful but useful lesson where I need to understand what the viewer expects next. And I did not get that. So I put out 3 more top 10s. They bomb further. And with the way YouTube works, for those who don't know, is you have this 1 out of 10 system where when you post a video, as I'm sure you know, you post it, and then when it doesn't get a 1 out of 10, it's not the best feeling. When it gets a 10 out of 10, it's not a great feeling either. Yeah. And I think by the time I figured out what I needed to make, which was another versus video, it was too late. But I didn't know that at the time, so I try to replicate it. So I come up with another idea. This character versus this character. I do that. But I didn't know these characters, so it took a ton of research. So the video stalled the channel for like a month and a half while I made this video. And I edited like crazy. So much effort. Looking back, it's kind of crazy. And I put that out. Bombs.
That's the worst, though.
So I go through more top 10s. I do one more versus. Actually, no. I burnt out, so I took a month off. Came back with another versus. I said, okay, I know what I did. The versus came out when Invincible was hot and Goku. So what I'll do is I'll do that again. And at the time, Shang-Chi, the movie for the MCU, was coming out. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm going to make a Shang-Chi versus another Dragon Ball character. I picked Yamcha, not my strongest choice. And so I did that and I timed it. My brain had the right idea, but it was the horrible execution. Like it was just right execution, wrong idea. And so I did that. Bombs to a point I had never seen before.
No, it's terrible.
And I'm feeling horrible, but I like again, you know, the idea of the my channel name, I will come back stronger. So I go, okay,
Right.
got to figure this out. I'll come back. So I come up with a few other ideas, do a lot of research. They still don't hit, but I'm still releasing, not weekly anymore, but now I'm releasing at my own cadence. I'm trying to figure out how to edit and script properly. I'm figuring out little things I'm not doing well, I can improve. So I'm getting better. I'm learning Photoshop and going through all this thing. I'm starting to figure it out. And then Halloween's coming, and I go, this time, I got it. Goku's back, and we'll make him versus Michael Myers Halloween special. It's for sure going to get views. And I'm working on this video, and it just so happens my birthday, as you mentioned at the start of the show, like it's around this time. It's November 3rd. So usually what I do is I go back home. I don't live near my hometown anymore, so I usually make the trek back there. And my mom's birthday is around the same time, so we celebrate together.
Nice.
And so I'm rushing through this video, and I'm getting called like left and right. When are you coming? When are you coming? When are you coming? Like, what are you doing? Like, we need you here. Can you pick up a cake? Blah, blah, blah. I'm getting asked to do a bunch of stuff. And I'm just trying to make it before I go home for the weekend. And I'm rushing, and I think I worked from 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. Like, I was getting up early.
Oh, wow.
The grind, again, coming from the construction background, I didn't care about the grind. I would grind as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that, and I couldn't make it. I was like, this is the best I could do. The clock ran out. It's the best I can do. I upload, put up my thumbnail, do my thing, go back home for the weekend. The family has like, pardon me, the family has like a big fight. Over the weekend, I find out the video flops the worst of all of them. And at that point, I hit my breaking limit. I get back home, like, I'm a broken man. I'm a broken man. But I didn't know how broken I was. And I actually never told this story before. But I'll never forget this for as long as I live. I get to the I get back home, and I'm in an apartment building. And so I have to go up the stairs to go to my place, right? So I go and do that, and as I'm going up the stairs, my brain, in my voice, says, you should jump. And I just stopped. I just stopped. Yeah. Like, it shook me to my core, because I was always, like, it didn't matter what anybody said, as we've gone through this, my story.
Right.
I don't have a lot of people rooting for me when I make these decisions. But I can always count on myself. Like, my story, I'm always the one rooting for myself.
Right.
So, when that happened, I knew you need to stop. You can't make content anymore. You broke yourself. You have gone. It was a point I never reached before. But when I have my own voice, my own brain saying something crazy like that, like, that is something that, like, people would talk about. I couldn't relate to whatsoever. I didn't force it. It just happened, and I'll never forget the words, you should jump. It was my voice. I didn't mean to say it. It was the hardest thing that ever hit me, and so I quit. I just decided I can't do this.
That's scary.
We were talking. Dude,
That's
shook
scary.
me to my core. I actually never told anyone that story before. I mean, like, there's maybe like one person who knows. And like, that was the sign. It was like, brother, you need to, like, relax your brain. This isn't the path, man. Like, there's so many signs you can be told. You don't like what you're doing. You're not having fun, and they're not popping. So, like, what are you doing? Get out of here.
My God.
So I quit. And then thankfully, like we mentioned earlier, we were talking about, like, the beauty of video games. While it's not my favorite Halo Infinite gets a surprise release. Perfect timing. It takes my brain right off, and I lose myself in Halo Infinite. I play a ton of Halo Infinite multiplayer. I just go into that, and I get lost. And then around January, I get jonesing. I said, okay, I'm feeling it. And I said, but you know what? I'm not going to do this Dragon Ball thing. I don't care for it. That's not my thing. I don't want to be known for that. I don't have passion. Quite frankly, I didn't like the comments I was getting. Like, the community the anime community could be rough.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day, people arguing about, like, did Goku beat Omni-Man? I'm like, brother, they're paper. It's a picture.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
So I couldn't relate. So I wasn't the right guy
I
to make
see.
content for them
Mm-hmm.
in their defense. So I decide, okay, if I'm coming back, I'm making gaming content because I had a problem with gaming content. And this is what I would recommend to a lot of people making YouTube content is at the end of the day, you're trying to provide value. And so for me, I had a problem with gaming content and I found it was just overly cynical, constantly complaining, angry. I mean, there's a couple creators literally called like angry and then name.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
A couple
not that
famous
I'm
ones
not
actually.
like putting them out there, but it's like, bro, how are we gonna look at like the industry as something beautiful and as special as I think it is, but you're just angry about everything. You're screaming, you're the meme edits. It's like that's fine for a certain audience, but I always thought gaming could be more. So I decided I'm gonna come back to gaming. Now, I did it in the stupidest way possible because I didn't tell my audience. I kept it on the same channel,
Oh,
and I
I see.
decided,
Okay.
you know what's big right now? Netflix is big. You know what
Yeah.
Netflix does? They just drop like a whole series at once.
Yeah.
That's the future. So I decided to drop a season, what I called a season of Halo. I would focus on Halo. That's what I just played. I had a lot of thoughts on it. It's like, okay, and we're going to talk about every problem in Halo. There'll be 5 videos. Each one hits a certain thing. They each dynamically link into each other. It's a season. I'm going to drop all 5 at once. It's a great idea in theory. Now, for any YouTuber thinking, that's not bad, let me tell you, YouTube does not like this. If you drop 5 videos at the exact same time, YouTube will hate you and not recommend any of them. And if you do this on a channel that has just been making Dragon Ball content for the past year, effectively, like, you're not going to get anything. Like,
Oh my god.
so imagine working on 5 videos, not one,
Oh,
but
man.
5, and then you drop it all at once.
Wait, so
And they
all at the
bomb.
same time, on the same day?
All at the same time.
Oh
And they
my
all
God.
bombed. And so, but then this is what happened. This is what's interesting. They bomb. I'm not sad. I'm more hyped. I'm like hungry. I want to go. What I'm talking about gives me value. It's my problem. It's the one I want to solve. Video games I want to solve. There's a problem with video games and I feel like I can solve them. No one's saying it the way I want it to be said. I'm just not good enough yet. That's how I looked at it. So I do it again. And of course, I did the same season drop. But I decided I'll do it per day. Because at the time, there's a creator, Ryan Trahan,
Yeah.
very, very popular.
Yeah.
And he did a penny series.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
his thing was every single day for 30 days, he's going to use a penny to cross America.
This is a penny, and I'm going to use it to cross America in the next 30 days. Here's the...
It worked. So I go, okay, so my idea's not bad. I just executed it badly. So I said, what I'll do is the same thing. And this time, all my videos will loop. Like, effectively, so I made some tweaks to the formula. So I said, we're going to
that's
release
interesting.
Monday to Friday. And the last word of every video will be the first word of the next video. And I'll cut
Okay.
it off. So I'll go to say the word and I'll make it very easy for you to understand that I'm going to say, like, let's say I'm going to finish with video game. I'll say something like, and then now we're about to talk about and then it will cut
Yeah.
right there. And then the first word of the next video would be like video games, blah, blah, blah. So it would just constantly do that. And then the last video looped right back into it. The exact same scene. The first scene of the first video would be the last scene of the last video.
That's
Your boy
awesome.
got a little artsy. Okay, I'm not going to lie.
I gotta say.
It was cool, but it also bombed. So
Goodness.
because I took like 3 months to make 5 more videos and then didn't mention anything on my channel, released it. And then I'm 2 real years into this and I'm feeling a little, it
a little
kinda
down.
hurts. Yeah, a little down. But I'm like, I'm still having fun. I'm getting
Right.
better. I can see that. And I go for runs. They were like very good for me, like to just like let my brain think. For me, for creativity, if I bore my brain with a run, ideas will just pop in. It's like an easy trigger to get ideas. So I would do that. I go for my runs every day, especially in the summer. So I'm going for a run in August, and I have this idea that I've seen in other industries, but no one talk about in video games. And it's the idea that when you make YouTube content, because anyone can make content, and there's like millions of videos, your video has to be so tight and so full of value that effectively all the fluff. I mean, usually when you're starting YouTube, that's the first thing you start to learn is like all the fluff needs to be trimmed out. Get it out of here. Just say what you need to say, move on to the next thing. Don't stall. End the video as quick as possible. And so I'm like, well, that's going to happen to video games too when we go to subscriptions. It only makes sense. If every game is now no longer competing on price and I don't have to spend $80 for one game and another, I could just play them all on like a Game Pass subscription, which is what Microsoft's doing. Then I was like, well, this will happen the same way. The logic just says, if every game is equal, people will play what is the most fun and gives them the value the fastest, especially with downloads. And so I was like, dude, this is such a crazy idea. I've heard no one talk about this. Like, but how do you market that idea? Like, that idea is pretty nerdy, and like, who cares how subscription platforms are going to make your games? I was like, so for a month I'm running, and I'm just like trying to think of titles for this idea. Like, how do I do this? How do I do this? This makes no sense. No one's going to care about this. There's got to be a way. In my brain, I'm a huge believer in that any idea can be marketed. And you coming from marketing, I mean, maybe you can agree or disagree.
100%.
Exactly. There's a way to spin it for the people. And I love that psychology. And so I'm thinking there's got to be a way to make this easy to understand. And then all of a sudden I get, I come up with a simple title, how Game Pass is going to change gaming forever, is about to change gaming forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a picture of Far Cry that is overly bloated. I made it look big. And then I put a little arrow, and then I make a Far Cry that's like the other way around, super thin. And I go 200 hours, 20 hours. I drop it. First week, nothing. Next week, nothing. I'm already moving on to the next video. But then the arrow goes up. I see the views coming in. I go, okay, hold on.
Wow.
It skyrockets. I get 780,000 views. And then the unthinkable happens. At the end of that video, I linked very dynamically. I said, if you're really curious about how all this came together, then you're going to want to listen to how Microsoft is becoming a monopoly and what that means. So click this video. I did that. Well, now they all went to that video.
Okay.
But all those videos were linked pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm getting comments. I just watched six of this guy's videos. And they're
awesome.
Loving it.
Oh my God.
So every single one starts blowing up, some more than others, but overall, they're all blowing up. So overnight, I get 9,000 subscribers. I go from 3,000 to 9,000. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my God.
Now, when I came up with the Goku versus Omni-Man video, I mentioned it was my first viral. I came across a lesson that was, they love the idea. They don't love you.
Yeah.
I didn't learn that yet, apparently. Because after I released that video, I'm back in action, baby. I'm going, yo, they love me. I'm a god. I'm the next gaming god. So then I released this next video that's titled like something like
I fixed the
Xbox dashboard. Yeah. Where it's a sequel to another video where I make the new Xbox dashboard that
the UI
is like more modern and such. It's kind of interesting, actually. If you look at the new Xbox dashboard, there's a couple things they took from that. I'm not saying they took it from me, but there's things that they're never in their design language that I introduced, and all of a sudden it's there.
You knew it beforehand.
But that could just be crazy. But this video is very artsy. It has a very artsy feel. In fact, it ends with references to everybody who ever doubted me. Like, there's little throwaway nods in there. Just threw them all in there. Anyone that ever memed on me, like, boom, went in there. And it bombs. I go, oh, brother, here we go again.
Here we go. Mm-hmm.
And long story short, I keep learning this lesson over and over and over until the next year. So now we're in last year, 2023. And I decide I want to talk about Halo again because Halo's doing some stuff. I decide, you know what? I'm going to do Halo. I want to talk about Halo. I'm going to talk in the camera. There were certain creators that I was really interested in. And I looked at how people were like packaging it. And I really did a lot of research beforehand of like what people want to see. And what are people not talking about? I started doing an insane amount of research. Looking at other videos. What are people saying? What do they care about? And that video just takes off. And then right after it, I learned the lesson. They don't love me. They love the idea. Well, if people, the video is about how I think Halo is, like what happened to Halo and like why I think it's having issues. And I start going, well, what would those people want to see? I said, well, Halo people also like Call of Duty, and I like Call of Duty, but I find it interesting how Call of Duty is still going. So, okay, well, why isn't Call of Duty dead yet? Let's talk about that. And let's bring in more of your humor. Let's be a little bit more jokey in there. And in all my videos, I try to keep it positive. There's no swearing. There's no like anger. It's just positive. And I'm trying to bring ideas. I think that's a huge win for me. Like I really want to bring positivity and ideas with feedback. I'm not here to just be overly positive, but I want feedback and I want to like help the industry get better, but in a cool, like fun way. So I do that. It bangs again. And then I get a couple more of those and then I start figuring out my flow. And then one day I'm walking and I have someone very close to me and they go, I'm like, I'm trying to think of some new ideas. I can't think of anything. Like I got nothing. And they got that new Spider-Man game coming
Oh,
out.
here we
Spider-Man
go.
2
Yeah,
is coming
yeah,
out.
yeah.
I was like, there's got to be something. And this person's very close to me goes, why don't you just play them all? How many are there? And I go, well, there's a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah. Oh my
And I
God.
was like, I played a good chunk of them, but like, there's a lot. And they're like, yeah, you just, I don't know, that seems interesting. And this was a person who's like not in the gaming space. So their perspective was just like, what's a good idea? Not like what's a good thing for gamers. Like, what's a good idea?
Yeah.
So, okay. And then I start having creative ideas of like, okay, how can I make this funny? And like, what do I talk about? And like, I also don't really care about the tiny games. And, ooh, what if I could tell you about how the story of how that license went to different companies and got to Insomniac and what they did? Oh, what if I also talked about like the moment I had with my dog where he hurt his back, and I give that like as a giant thank you to developers. And I end the video with like all these games, whether you love them or hate them.
Yeah.
These are incredible people making incredible things. Let's all just say thanks. So I can, everyone can just look at this as an homage to this franchise, all those games.
Right.
This bombs.
I have played every single Spider-Man game starting all the way from the 1980s to the day before this video releases.
Let the Spider-Manning commence it.
It bombs.
Oh,
I'm
really?
dead. There's a video on my Instagram where it's like, it's actually a very short video in comparison to what the actual video is. 3 days after it released. And I'll never forget because like I was supposed to go to a cottage with friends. I said, no, I'm not going to go. Because the Friday I was supposed to go, it was another thing again, like, with the Halloween thing where I was being rushed. I said, no, I'm waking up Friday. I'm buying the game at 8 a.m. I woke up at 2 a.m. I edited the video to make it perfect. Waited until 8 a.m., went to Walmart, got the box, included it in the video, played a bunch of the game so I could give my feedback on the game, edited that part in, and then edited
it's
until
so
like
much
10
work.
p.m. Dude, it was 2 a.m. to 10 p.m. That was the hours. 2 a.m., 10 p.m. And then I upload. 3 days later, it bombs. There's a video of me. Your boy has a beard. And I'm just like, I'm just a broken shell of a man. Like, I'm the closest I'd ever been to that, like, the staircase scene. I was like, bro, I'm doing all the things right. This doesn't make any sense.
That's crazy,
I'm just,
really.
I literally was like, but that's the thing with me. Like, I did all the research. It should have worked. So anyways, I was just like, whatever. Like, let's just move on to the next thing. And again, the reason I love video games, I beat Spider-Man 2 over that weekend. I just got my mind off it. Just played Spider-Man 2. I have some issues with the game, but overall, it's a really fantastic game, and it kept my mind off. And then this puppy hits the moon. This puppy goes to the tippy top, and it just doesn't stop. And
What happened?
it takes a while for YouTube to find the people it wants to send it to.
Oh, wow.
And I never experienced that much of a delay.
Oh my God.
And I mean, there was previously with some other videos, but I was smaller back then, so I just assumed, yeah, that makes sense now. But now I had, roughly, I think we grew to about 16,000 subscribers around then. And so when the Spider-Man video came out, like, I was like, okay, well, at 16,000 views, I should get that.
At
And
least, yeah, after so much
I got
work
like
and
300
research.
over the weekend. Yeah, it was
Oh,
bad.
bro.
I think based off Tuesday, I released
my
it
God.
Saturday. I think based off Tuesday at 900. I think I have a
My
screen cap
God.
somewhere of like 1,200, something like that. 900,
Mhm,
1,200.
mhm.
Make the video. I'm depressed, but then it hits the moon,
Wow.
and then it unlocks everything in my brain, and I
Yeah.
start going, dude, you just need to make sequels to your stuff. That's what people want. Stop trying to be super artsy. Be artsy in the sequels, but Like at the end of the day, you're a human. You need to be able to eat, like,
Yeah.
you know, like relax.
Yeah.
So I go, I'm going to make some more I play everys. And I have a few other creative ideas. So I have a couple other creative ideas that I threw in there as well. But overall, I'm working on the next I play every from that moment forward. And then it ends up being a Rockstar video. And then you know
That
what's
was
interesting?
huge. Yeah.
That's the biggest video by far. I think right now it's 4.5 million. What's interesting with that video?
Yeah. 4.6.
4.6. My
There you
boy.
go.
Let's go.
I just played every single Rockstar game ever, which includes some of history's most important video games across 30 years. So let's find out just how much Rockstar's games have changed, starting with the original Grand Theft Auto.
What's interesting with that video is the meta was do GTA. I play every GTA game. And I didn't want to. I didn't care. I love those games. But for me personally, I wanted to tell the story that I did like in the Spider-Man games, where I wanted to tell the story of how Rockstar became Rockstar, because they're so important to video games. And I said, no one talks about them. There's in secrecy, and like, I want to find out where they came from, what games they built. And so that's what I wanted to do. So immediately the content idea was do GTA. That was the popular thing to do. And then from a comment perspective, my audience was not asking for that. When I made the Spider-Man video, the number one request was make a Batman video.
Oh, seriously? Interesting.
And like, I'm sure it'll do well. I just have no interest in that. Like to me, like the story of the Batman licenses is not as interesting. There's some cool stuff there, but for me, it didn't spark that joy. And so I do the Rockstar video, and I remember I would, man, the day before the Rockstar video drops, I have this thing in my brain where I go, if you can watch it again and you can make it 0.01% better, then you have an obligation to do it. So I did it. And I'm telling you, every single one of my videos, I've watched like 10,000. Obviously, that's exaggeration, but like,
multiple
I
times.
hate my videos by the time they're released, like legit. So I can't even tell if they're good anymore. But like, I'll go, okay, this feels awkward, cut this. Or like, okay, this isn't, if I wait like an extra 2 frames, it's funnier on a pause or something like that. So I watched it right up until the end of the night. I just kept watching it and watching it. Okay, this can go. And these videos are getting long. Now it's like 50 minutes. Watching it. Okay. And I release it. And then it didn't take a day. Like, this thing popped immediately. And this thing popped with an aggression I'd never seen before.
Oh my God.
And then, of course, all those people, or a good chunk of them, went to watch the Spider-Man video.
Yeah.
Some of them watched some of the other ones. But overall, like, it just exploded. And at the start of the year, the Spider-Man brought me to 30,000 subscribers. And in my first video of 2024, I said at the end of that video, the goal is to get to 100,000 subscribers. And this GTA video immediately brings us to, I want to say I got to 70,000 subscribers by May.
God.
Wow.
Wow.
It just explodes.
That's incredible. Oh
and then I go, I want to do another I play every. I know what I'm doing next. I want to do the Blizzard videos. I felt that Blizzard needed a video too. The way I looked at my videos was very much like a shelf, like the one behind me, of like, each video has to be a trophy that I would put on that shelf. That's the way I've rewired my channel now, where it has to fit there. If I look at what the future of what that shelf would look like, Blizzard has to be there. So to me, I didn't care at that point. I said, Blizzard has to be there, Rockstar had to be there, Spider-Man had to be there for what they mean to me. They're going to be there. So I go, okay, I'm going to do the Blizzard video. Going to order it was very important to me that I constantly made my videos better, but then also made them more like, I want video games to look beautiful. So I wanted to own the physical games. And very much I want to be a commentary on like the new era that we're in with video games, where they're digital, or the games that we have, they're just lame. Like, they don't need to be that way. These guys make a lot of money. They make a lot of money.
No doubt about that.
And I know it's not like, I understand not a lot of people are buying physical, but in this day and age, video game developers, or publishers, I should say, they don't give you a choice. I mean, why would you buy physical? It's the same price. Like, you get a piece of plastic that's just a license key. You got to download anyway. It makes no sense.
Makes no
so
sense.
It was very important to me that I buy the physical editions and include them with the highest B-roll that I possibly knew how to do. So I order all those things. I didn't have every Blizzard game. That was expensive. I did not like that purchase, but that was expensive.
I would
And in the
imagine.
meantime, I decided to take this risky thing where I was pretty fed up with the way where video games were. And I felt, based off the Rockstar video, that I now had the editing and scripting, storytelling capabilities to make a video about the 9th generation of consoles and say everything that I wanted to say in a way that was a way they could fix. And the video is structured in 3 problems. Fix these problems. Here's the problems. There's no swearing. It's just here. I put clips to add context to what I'm saying. Like, I'm not coming out of nowhere.
In a very friendly
And
manner, for sure.
Exactly. And so I come up with this video, like what happened to the 9th generation, which is like a sequel to the Halo video, same format, just better. It's a better video. And I remember a lot of people, I had some creator friends who were like, I wouldn't make that next. I probably would not make that. I would make another iPlay.
Yeah.
And I said, look, dude, I'm just creatively bankrupt. Like, I watched that Rockstar video 1,000 times. I just don't want to do that right now. So I'm waiting for these games anyways. I'm going to do this. I make that video. Oh boy, she goes to the moon.
Yeah.
And after a few title thumbnail tweaks, whatever, I do all the YouTuber stuff. This thing just rockets on top of rockets. And now we're cooking. By the time May comes, or maybe even June, maybe it's June, 100,000 subscribers. Then we get
Awesome.
the plaque. The plaque's right there. It's just chilling. We get the plaque.
That's awesome.
And then I just keep going. Now I just don't stop. So now at this point, I'm in this case. It's a very long story. Hopefully that's okay. But
Perfectly fine. It's so interesting. I'm all ears.
yeah. So now I'm just at the point where I understand what I need to do. I feel confident of the views the videos will get. Like, I knew the Blizzard video wouldn't get as many views. I knew that. It's just
You had
not
a
as
hunch?
big as Rockstar. Yeah,
Well,
it's still a decent amount. Still decent. I know. Like, I've become that guy. 2 years ago, he's like, "Hey, I got 10,000." Now it's like, "Oh, it's just 600." I know what I am. It's horrible.
no.
I don't
There's
like
a big
it,
difference, definitely. But I would have thought that, there would be, a significant amount of people that would be interested in.
There's definitely a huge
significant.
chunk, and
More than
I think it'll
600,000.
continue to grow.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a huge market there, and I think it'll do really well. But the thing right now, Blizzard's just in a, like, Rockstar's seen as like this god of gaming, like this
for
savior.
Sure. Oh.
Yeah, and Blizzard is like all over the place. And so that video was super interesting for me to do, actually, because it was the first time I had to end the video on like, Blizzard, you're just I can't spin this.
Yeah,
like, you're
it is
not
what it
what
is.
you were.
Mhm,
I have to be honest here, but I also want to be positive. So I really try to make that video, and like, they're not what they are, but it doesn't mean they can't go back. They
Oh,
can't,
for sure not.
like, people can't figure it out. Like, at the end of the day, like, it can be replicated. So that's the message I tried to do. And that's what I do with all my stuff. But that one was really hard. I really wanted to do that well, because I know so many people, the meta right now on YouTube is just, I hate Blizzard, and get like 1 million views. And I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's the right thing to do personally. I want them to improve. I don't want them to die.
Of course.
So I did that, and then I ended up doing really well. And then I did a World of Warcraft video, but the videos take too long. So at this point, I got to learn to figure it out, learn to move faster. But we're getting there, and it's still just me.
That's what I was going to say. You're a one-man army so far still.
Yeah, you'll
That's
notice in
incredible.
like any clips, or even in this podcast, if I say like we, it's just my corporate training. Everything is we, the team, like we're real strong. We're going to do it. But it's all me. I script, edit, record, thumbnail, title, research.
That's incredible. Wow. I mean,
I didn't realize not that many people did that until I started talking to more creators. They're like, "Brother, you don't have an editor? What's wrong with you?" I was like, "Oh."
I mean, I have a bit of an understanding of the amount of work that goes into your videos. That's my next question that I would like to ask you. But I'm obviously also a one-man army. I'm not anywhere near as big. But even the podcast, they take a long time. And, you got to listen through it many times and edit it. And the intro, this, and then the text and everything. And that really
Dude, your intros are great, by the way.
Oh,
Shout out to
thank
your
you.
intros. They're amazing, man.
Thank you so much, man. I really try to, that's the part where it gets really creative for me. That's the part where I have a lot of fun. But thank you for that. And so I understand how much work it goes into that, but also you create a signature with that. And I was
Mhm.
thinking that if you create your signature long enough, and then if you want to have an editor later on, how
Yeah.
difficult will it be to get that editor on the same level of your signature? And it's a bit of a like a blessing and a curse, I think, but
Yeah.
in disguise, you know. But yeah, it's tough. I must imagine.
Yeah, like my plan for next year is really I feel like this year was proof of concept and I've doubled down and tried to figure out. I have another video coming out that in theory should do well, but it's a test. I have this new work ethic that I've tried this year where basically I treat social media as like my utility belt. So if I do something on Twitter, yeah, it's me on Twitter and I'm saying things on Twitter and that's my personal thought, but I'm also seeing how much traction is this getting? Like, do people like this topic? And then if they like that topic, okay, well, I'm going to make a short because this year, like last year to put in perspective, I made like 9 or 10 videos, long form videos, and then like 7 shorts. Some like it was a good chunk of minutes. I did well, obviously, but it wasn't a huge amount of content. This year, I make one mega video like basically every month. I make one mega short every Friday. Like I made sure every Friday, same quality as Zenkai Goose. Like every week, I don't publish to people, so it's there, people can see. So every week, without a beat, don't miss. Every day, I post on social media like a custom short on Instagram and TikTok. And then every Saturday, I do a live stream. And the goal was like, okay, well, if you're going to be good at this, you got to put in the reps. So you're going to put out a content every single day. And then Saturday is going to be a 3-hour live stream. We talk about gaming news. You're going to learn how to be a live stream and hold attention for 3 hours. You're going to
It's incredibly
make a
difficult. Wow.
high quality short every single Friday, and you're going to learn how to be really good at storytelling, and you're going to tweet, and you're going to make long form videos all at the same time. Effectively, I took the streamer job, the TikTok job,
Yeah,
and
the
the
social
YouTube
media.
job,
Yeah.
and then I put them all into one. Like
That's
it wasn't even
tough.
the case where I was like, because with the streamer, it's like you stream, you chop that up on YouTube,
But yeah,
and then you chop that up into shorts and blah
yeah.
blah blah. But I was like doing all of that, and then I was doing custom shorts, and then so I had to write it, script it, record it, and then I was doing custom, obviously my main YouTube videos. So I was doing all three in completely different ways.
That's
Basically, I made my
incredible.
life almost impossible this year. Like I've never worked harder this year,
Yeah.
and but I've gotten so much better. I've learned so
But it
much,
pays
and so I
off for
use
you with the
yeah.
results. That's the most
It's
important
it's
thing.
been awesome. I think this year got to be close to 500 pieces of content this year. It has to be.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I like because again, coming from the construction background, it's like okay, look, I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but I will outwork as much as I can. Like I can do that. I can put in the reps. So that's my strength, and I also like it. I like challenging myself. I like finding new creators to
For
learn
sure.
from, and I learned a lot. What's actually really cool is as you grow in YouTube, like more and more people obviously reach out, but then you get to meet amazing creators such as yourself, and I
Oh,
got
thank
to
you.
meet like other no problem awesome people like Jack Sather was Jack
Oh,
Sather.
he's
I don't
so
want to say it
cool.
wrong.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's
I love his
incredible,
videos,
incredible
man.
human being,
Oh, that's
incredible
incredible.
videos, one of the
Yeah.
goats. T Dog Smitty, he's a Call of Duty content creator. He's amazing. He's great. Really, a lot of great people. And the YouTube space, as you know, like it's a difficult place, and so I feel like everybody has that appreciation of just like, yo, we get it. It's hard. I have
Yeah.
admiration. Like I get it.
No, for
Every
sure.
once in a while, there's a weird creator who's like a little hostile, but for the most part, 99% are like awesome and
Mhm.
super helpful, and it's fun. Like I remember the first time I spoke to Jack Sather, it was a 7-hour call of just YouTube. 7 hours.
Oh
Like it
my
just
God.
we just didn't stop.
A
Like I
whole
just kept
working day.
talking to him about YouTube. I was just like, yo, I'll keep
Awesome.
going because no one talks about YouTube that I know. So it was great. But
That's
yeah, it's been an
awesome.
incredible year, nonstop grind, and I learned a ton. And so next year, I plan to find an editor. As you were saying, I do think it'll be a little bit difficult, but I feel like I have to start somewhere. And then at the end of the day, I've proven they work. The ideas work. My whole pitch, which was good, high quality YouTube content for gaming that doesn't involve, meme edits, swearing, all that stuff. Just great content. Can that work in gaming? I think I've proven it. And so now I just need people to help me get to the next level, scale me up, because I think I can do it. And I really want to do that. And I'm very, very excited for the future of not only YouTube, but gaming and content creation. Because in my personal opinion, not to be a negative Nancy, but I just am not happy with the place that video games are in right now.
Oh,
I just
100%.
think
Yeah.
could be so much better.
This could be another hour and a half long podcast just speaking about that, I think. First of all, yeah, I'm very happy that you're considering, to get some help because, man, I honestly speaking, I don't know how you manage how many hours of sleep do you get on average?
Bro, it's bad. Like I try to get my 8 hours. I try, but it's tough. Like effectively, I have like there's a saying that I forget what
Like
the saying
six-ish?
is, but it's like I'd say like 8 to 6 is on average. But I'm not doing anything other than work. Like that's the unfortunate thing.
Gotcha.
Like I'm not seeing people. It's very rare. Um, I'm working all the time. It's either work or I'm running outside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the only thing I'm doing.
Well, you're
Which I
grinding,
like.
man. Yeah, yeah, for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
For sure.
Oh
For
yeah.
sure.
Thankfully, and it's like what you said. It's like this is my problem I want to solve, and I like it, and I'm good at it. And I get a kick out of the feedback loop on YouTube because, quite frankly, like we discussed earlier, there's just been so many players in my life that's like, yeah, you can't do that. What are you even doing? Quit. And so it feels good.
To hell with those people. No, for sure. That's really good. And I think too, I think for creators like yourself with a story like yourself, it is really heartwarming to, hear the success at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like when I listen to your story and when I see that you're working so hard, and I think anybody who is not, not necessarily a YouTuber, but who understands what it takes to create or produce videos, they will be like, you know what? That's admirable, like what this guy is doing as a one-man army. And all props to him, obviously to you here. And I only wish you nothing but the best and only
Thank you.
as much success as you can get. But talking about, the gaming industry, I want to get a few gaming industry questions out there. Obviously,
Yeah,
it's in a weird position, right? In a weird, I don't know, like in a standstill or whatever you might call it. Now, I remember talking about multiplayer right now. I remember back in the day, whenever Call of Duty came out, you just boot the game, you'd play it, and you just enjoy it. You'd play it split screen, you could play it online. It was just, there was no rush to buy it first. There was no like, oh, I'm going to change my time zone to New Zealand to be able to download it first, to get the golden skin, to freaking, you know what I mean? Like all these things. Plus, now, if you were to play Call of Duty, let's say Black Ops 6 or whatever, 2 or 3 weeks after it has released, you're done for. Now you're literally done for. Like, what's the point really of going in to play online? I don't understand. There's the metas that are changing every day. Everybody has all the attachments. You have to have that gun. You have to have this skin, and you have to have these attachments. Otherwise, your character in your game is worthless. You can't even shoot anybody. What is going on, Goose? Tell me, where is this? Where are we headed?
I tell you, like, I think there's people in the video game industry, very powerful people, and so I'll phrase it in a way because I don't have the best way to phrase it, but I mean it with respect, but they don't have the creativity. And when I'm talking about that, I'm not talking about developers. I'm talking about like industry up there people. So like not to pick on Microsoft because I pick on Microsoft a lot, but personally I think Microsoft doesn't have a creative bone in their body, the people leading, which is fine because I'm a big believer in like the team is a set of tools and you wouldn't use a screwdriver to put in a nail. Like it doesn't mean the screwdriver is a bad tool. Yeah. So that's fine. But the thing with Microsoft, because they don't have these creative ideas personally, and the reason I'm choosing them is because they're having the biggest impact, is like their solutions are copying from other industries. Like effectively Microsoft's strategy right now is Game Pass, and that is Netflix. The problem is, like, the best parts about the movie industry, the best parts about the music industry, um, whether people think about it or not, is really the social aspect. Like, music is incredible, but it's like there's a reason concerts are huge. There's a reason, like, singing in the car with your buddies is huge. Like, this stuff is huge. Like, when the Kendrick Lamar versus Drake beef is going on, Twitter
Yeah.
community's losing it. Everybody,
Yeah.
it's a community thing.
Hmm.
And you get the same thing with movies, right? It's like when you go to theater, right? Like, say what you will about the latest Spider-Man movie, like the Tom Holland one, whether you like it or not. If you went to that movie in the theater on opening day when you saw the other Spider-Man,
Oh
spoilers,
God.
like
Oh, that was,
that
my God.
was a community moment. That was an amazing experience. And the same thing with Avengers Endgame, like Infinity War, all those things. But even like movies like you go see the new Quentin Tarantino movie, he's only making 10. You see the new Christopher Nolan movie. And now what you'll notice is like each of these things that I brought up have two very specific things. They're extremely social. They're like ingrained in the social fabric of humans, and their personalities. In video games, it has been corporatized so much that you don't even know who's making Call of Duty. You don't know. I mean, for the longest time, nobody knew who was making Fortnite, and most people don't. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, when you think about how much the art is played, and like when you combine how much time, how many minutes a human puts into a video game versus their favorite song, versus their favorite movie, how is it
Uncomparable.
you don't know who made that game, but you'll know the movie when it's 1 hour and a half of your time or 2 hours of your time? Maybe watch it like twice. If it's your favorite movie, maybe watch it 10 times your entire life. And a song is 3 minutes, and you repeat it like how many times you might listen to the same song. Let's get crazy. Let's say 10,000. Like, that's 30,000 minutes. Like, how many people, like, put that in perspective of like Warcraft, World of Warcraft, Fortnite, Halo, Call of Duty. These are such social things where you can see the artist, and these companies, in a very like smart play, they just don't allow the creative to be someone special, because the second the creative becomes someone special, well, you got to pay that creative, and that creative can just go anywhere they want. I mean, there's a reason Kojima
I was gonna say.
such a huge, exactly,
Yeah.
his brand is him.
Yeah.
And when you hear Kojima, it's a Kojima game. It doesn't
It's a
matter what
Kojima
he's
game.
called or what company he's at. It's a Kojima game.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the only equivalent I can possibly think of. I mean, there's maybe a few others, but overall they don't have that. And so what they're doing now is it's corporatized. Everything is corporatized in such a way that the social part, the personal part, like all of it is gone. The humanity of video games is being stripped. And I think that's why a lot of people are moving more towards indie games. And I love indie games, don't get me wrong, but I do have a special place in my heart for the AAA game. Like, there's something about the AAA game where you giant cinematic experience, take a bite. It's good. It's a nice big steak. But I also love the nice filet mignon with indie games. I mean, sometimes, like, the filet mignon is 10,000 times better than the steak, but I still might want to crave the steak. So I think that's why people like these indie games. But, like, the lessons that the video game industry, the big dogs, are doing and imposing, which is rippling into the industry, are absolutely horrible. I mean, for instance, Ubisoft, like, we talked about their stock, we dunked on them a little bit, but I mean, like, they dunked on themselves.
Yeah. No. It's all their fault now.
Yeah, they have 20,000 employees.
It's insane.
20,000.
It's insane.
For reference, Nintendo, the console manufacturer, puts out just as many games, if not more, 7,000.
That's a fraction.
And
my goodness.
for another record, Valve owns Steam.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest
Valve,
games
for
of all
sure.
time. Dota 2, Counter-Strike 2 is huge. Like, all these games are huge.
Portal,
they still support
Half-Life.
them. 300 people.
Yeah.
Like, they have
bizarre.
no idea what they're doing. And to jump on Ubisoft some more, Ubisoft released Skull and Bones. They released X Defiant. They released Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. And they released, there was another one that's not coming to mind, but that already tells the point right there. It's like they spend millions of dollars on bets that to put it in perspective of a YouTuber mindset, I would never take that bet. If you said, yo, Goose, we gonna spend 10 million, $100 million
100 million, yeah.
on this ship game. And I go, oh, you're making Assassin's Creed Black Flag 2.
Yeah.
And then they go, no,
No.
new IP. I said, okay, but does anybody have any brand connection to that? No. Okay. How long are you going to take to make it? 10 years. I'd be like, brother, why would you not? Why you like? I get you want to make the ship game. I get that. That's fine. But why are you making it? Why are you picking the thing that is a way bigger risk? Because at the end of the day, and this is the thing with these big companies, like an indie game, an indie developer can take a risk. It's one developer. He manages his own salary. Maybe there's 10 developers. Again, way less. But at 20,000, with like we spoke of earlier, with your stock that people use for retirement funds, well, you got a lot of things that you have to be careful for. So when you make a bad game, and we make 4 bad ones in a row, not bad. Oh, the other one was Star Wars Outlaws. That was the other one.
Oh, right. Oh my God. Didn't even play
when you
that
make
one.
4 misses, like I won't say they're bad games, but misses, you are damaging your own employees. And so when you look at Ubisoft, their stock is the same level it is today that it was in 2014. Like, I can't even fathom what the employees are like right now. My heart goes out to them. But again, Skull and Bones, it's one of those simple ideas. The Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, you could have the same conversation. It's like, okay, we're going to make a Prince of Persia game. Okay. We haven't really touched on that IP in a while. Well, what's the plan? Metroidvania. Okay, I'm not saying that's bad, but it is very saturated, especially in the indie niche. You're really going to have to make sure it's really good. Is there any other thing you're going to do with that? Yeah, we're going to change the prince entirely. Well, but why?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, again, it's like, I get you want to be creative, but Ubisoft's not the place. It's a giant corporate company. And Star Wars Outlaws is another thing where it's like, Star Wars is a huge brand. There's nothing I'm more certain of. If we look at the data and we look at when a certain game, there's a game like 10, maybe 13 years ago, a while back, but it was shown at E3. Star Wars game. It was a bounty hunter game. Same exact concept. It's called Star Wars 1313.
Yeah.
It was like a Mandalorian-esque game.
Yeah.
So much hype. People
The
hype.
trailer was insane, I remember.
Exactly. Now we get the exact same game in a world where the Mandalorian is like the hottest thing. Like the only thing in Star Wars verse that is like universally seen is like, this is good.
Yeah.
And they decide to not. Why would you just not make that? Just Mandalorian. Make the same game. Same game. Just put the Mandalorian in. Because again, you have 20,000 employees. You know? It has nothing to do with like social values or political correctness. It's like your 20,000 employees, like just calculate that. On average, everyone's probably paid, if you average it up, probably $100,000 a year on average, right? 20,000 every 2 weeks times 100,000, whatever that your weekly paycheck for that would be. Like
it's an incredible amount of money.
That's a lot. Plus the stock on top that is dropping. So you can't make these crazy risks. And the video game industry does that a lot. And so they don't have any personal, like there's no creative. They don't allow the creative, right? Even Grand Theft Auto, like there was talk, like it is the Housers, but like no one really vocalizes it that much. They just don't do it. Not in the way that Kojima does it. You know, and I know it's made by a team, but we can't say like the Kojima games aren't made by a team. They clearly are. But it comes, like, this is his vision.
It's
the same thing with like Quentin Tarantino's movies. They're made by a lot of people. I mean, that's a union run thing. But it's his vision.
But it's his vision, exactly, yeah.
I think that's what we need more of, but they've effectively built themselves in such a bubble where they just don't want to allow anybody to have anything that's not digital. They don't want anyone to have any physical. They don't want you to talk to your friends. They want you, and they're not thinking of the experience.
Yeah,
like
it's just money.
Exactly, but it's not. It's even worse than that because the experience is an afterthought. My brother, huge gamer. He's actually he was how would I say it? Like he was in one of the top teams, an actual team in MLG for Halo 3.
Oh, cool! Wow.
I think he came in second place in one of the big ones.
Oh, nice.
He's gonna kill me. I can't remember that. Anyways, that was a long time ago. loves games. He's a huge competitive gamer. He got really into Halo 3. Obviously, went to the top MLG. I remember we went all over the place for him. And StarCraft 2, Counter-Strike, he loves those games. He has stopped playing games. My brother.
No.
We grew up together.
No.
We played all games. He doesn't play them. And so one day I asked him, I said, why don't you play anymore? Like, you don't come and play with the boys or anything. Like, we play every week. He goes, this is the experience when I play the game. You guys say, we want to play this game. I go get the game. I need to figure out what service it's on. Once I get the game, even if I have the game, when I open the game, there's a 20 gig to 50 gig update. So I have to wait. I can't just play it right away when I remember. I have to think about it beforehand. But I have kids. I have a job. I'm not going to remember that. These things are set on auto download, yet they don't always auto download.
No.
And then you get there, the menu is the most confusing thing ever. I mean, Call of Duty is definitely one of them. And it's just like, battle pass here, new Nicki Minaj skin over here, bada boom, bada bing. And it's just like,
Activision
what
account.
happened to the game? Yeah, it's like, where's the game? And even like Call of Duty is a great example where I was playing it on stream last week when it came out, or 2 weeks ago when it came out. We played multiplayer for a bit. We had a great time on stream. And I decided, well, I'm going to play the campaign. Apparently, it's pretty good. I like the Black Ops campaigns. Let's jump into it. I installed the game. We were playing multiplayer. I go and click campaign. And it goes, install the campaign. It's another 40 gigs. I go, brother, I installed the game. And when I launched the game, it's not even the game. It's a Call of Duty launcher. And then I launch Black Ops 6 from I don't care about the other Call of Duties. I want Black Ops. Why is this difficult? And then now I want the campaign. And I got to install 40 gigs. And I've since done that. And I went to go play the campaign. And this is the experience. Launch Call of Duty. Call of Duty needs an update. Press button to restart. Okay.
All the time.
It launches. You go back. Okay. Which game do I want to play? Well, the game I launched was Black Ops 6, but I guess we're not launching that. So go through the menu. Black Ops 6. Okay, cool. What do you want to play? Multiplayer Zombies campaign. I would like to play campaign, Mr. Black Ops. Campaign. And then it goes, hey, that's a different executable. We got to swap you over. So we're going to be shutting this down and launching the new executable. And you go, brother, it's no shock to me people are not playing these things anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and then not only on top of that, there's another issue, which is not talked about enough. Quite frankly, I'm trying to figure out how to talk about it more. It's just not easy for me to market. But take most games now, the big games, the AAA games, the ones that would sell a lot, you launch them, and you're given a tutorial. Now, you've played these games
I see where you're going
10,000 times.
Yeah.
Even before you get to the tutorial, usually you open the game. Let me back up. You open the game, you got like a 20 gig, whatever update. You get into the campaign game. Okay, whatever. I'm in the game. You get to the main menu. It's usually like press X to start or press A to start, whatever. You press A to start. Menu pops up. 20 options, usually. Do you want the voice text on in case you have that problem? Do you want subtitles on? Do you want this? I go, brother, I just want to play the game. Yeah, exactly. The color. So you press, whatever. Click. I don't want that on. Okay, whatever. Another pop-up comes on. Do you want performance mode or quality mode? Like I got this doctorate in what I'm supposed to know what to play. Brother, you're the dev. I'm playing on a console. Pick. I don't care. Whatever the best one is. Yeah, I don't care. Don't stop asking me questions. When you go on YouTube, it doesn't say, hey, do you like crime movies? Do you like this? Do you like that? No, it's just like, here's options. Just pick the one.
Yeah.
You know? We're in this world now where if you take 3 seconds too long of my time as a content creator, they just move on.
Yeah.
That's realistic. And that's not because people have short attention spans. I dislike that argument. It's because 20 years ago, you had like 4 movies a year, and that was the options. And now you have 10 million videos every single second. Like, there's too many options. So of course I'm going to be like, yeah, you're wasting 3 seconds of my time. I got it's like pure supply and demand. Like, I got stuff right here. So you get the third menu, which is usually what's your camera controls and all that stuff. Back in the day, in Halo days, it was part of the game. You're like, hey, look at these lights. And, okay, now I'm invert. So you have that. Then you start the game, and then you get a bunch of cutscenes. It's like boring exposition written by people. Like, I just don't understand who's writing these stories. And then you get into the game and it's just like, well, we're going to slow walk and we're going to teach you how to play the game. So when you see this sparkly sign, you want to press triangle or whatever. And they're too slow. They take way too long. Because again, we live in a world where things are just not fast. Because I think people conflate the two. It's value. I give you the answer now.
That makes sense.
It's not it's not like I'm saying it fast. I could take my time and say what I want. That's what I've kind of learned as a content creator. I could take as much time as I want, as long as every word I say has value. So I'm not wasting your time. But video games waste my time. I loved the first God of War, the remake that they made. The new one, I put it down after an hour. I want to go back. It was too slow.
Yeah.
I tried getting Assassin's Creed Mirage. I was like, I haven't played an Assassin's Creed in forever. They changed they copied The Witcher for a long time. So I was like, well, Mirage apparently it's gone back to Assassin's Creed style. So I tried it, and it's exactly I just explained.
Yeah.
The 3 menus, the giant cutscenes, exposition, teach you how to steal. I said, bro,
to hell with that.
like, you have to understand, game developers. People are working all the time. They get home, they have kids or whatever. Even if they don't, like, they just want to play.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, people don't know how to play these games. You need to show them how to play. It needs to be easy to understand. And I understand that. But the single biggest game in the world is Fortnite, which is a third-person shooter. And they just throw you in.
Right. There you go. You just play.
So what are we talking about here? Like, I get it. Like, Fortnite's not a simple game. Especially with the build mode. It's not a simple game.
Not at all, yeah.
And yet it's the most played game of all time. Like, same thing with Grand Theft Auto. That's not a simple game. Third-person controls, multiple cameras, like slow animations, like shooting, driving. Like, there's a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yet these are the most played games. And, like, the tutorials aren't, I mean, specifically Fortnite, you just jump in.
Yeah.
So we got to use data. And the data says, ain't nobody cares about that. And so you're seeing certain games kind of blow up. We saw this year with Helldivers 2.
Yeah, that was big.
They just let you play.
Yeah.
They just let you play.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it was very social. And people loved that. They were like, whoa, we're back. And then Warhammer was another great one.
Oh, wow.
Black Myth Wukong, I didn't get to play. But, like, that looked like another social aspect. People were, like, super behind that game. It was right into it. I did see the start of the game. It was right into it. You just jump in. Astrobot is another one. Like, people just want to play. And so I feel like video games haven't adapted. They've ruined the experience. They haven't adapted. And they've priced themselves through the roof in a world where they've also recouped $10,000 billion through microtransactions and battle passes.
Yeah. Yes, games
it makes
and everything.
zero sense.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise to me that video games are, I think video games personally, the state of the industry, there's great video games, but the state of the industry is probably the worst I've ever seen. It's absolutely disgusting. And I mean, Sony just dropped their PlayStation 5 Pro. And you think to yourself, they came out and they said, we're going to sell this thing for $700 US, which is roughly like $1,100 Canadian. And so you go, okay, what's it do? It's like, well, it plays the games at a higher fidelity. And it's like, so let me get this straight. So it's the same console, but it can play it's like, it's stronger, it's being sold at a premium. So you're training me to pay a lot of money for extra fidelity, correct? It's like, yeah. And we agree that the PlayStation 5 Pro is probably going to be the top 1%. Like, it's going to be a niche thing. It's not going to be like mainstream. Yeah. Okay. Where would those people logically go next? If price is not an option, where they don't really care about the price, they just want the extra fidelity.
PC.
I feel like they're going to move to PC. Like, these console makers have made it so brain dead to go to PC. Like, Discord is 1,000 times better than anything on any of these consoles. The microphone situation is 1,000 times better on any of these consoles. Like, these consoles, like the PlayStation 5 has a mic in it, but like, easy.
Are you talking about the mic in the controller?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like, there's that. they make them upgradable. The costs are through the roof. Why in God's name, especially in the world where we have crossplay and like companies like Microsoft are just giving away all their games? Why would I own all consoles? We mentioned that at the start of the podcast. I buy them all. I do not play them unless a game comes out to make me want to play them. They're just not fun to go on those things. So the last time I played any of those consoles was Astrobot, and I enjoyed it. It was a fantastic game, and I love it. But it's like, why? Why would I go back? And that's the problem they're facing. And I very much believe, I'm like trying to shout it from the rooftops, but I very much believe we need a fourth player so bad, like so bad. Someone who understands what people want from a console. Because there's a lot in the community who say you want the most powerful console. That's been the marketing. Like Microsoft's marketing is the most powerful console, and now the PS5 Pro, same thing. That's not what the consoles ever were. They never were that. Like the PC was always better than every console growing up. It was more cumbersome, but the thing that the console sold you as was a social experience that was good right out the box. You press a button, it works. You can play with all your buddies. That's what they all were. Back from the very first story I told you with my grandma on the NES, it was a family moment. We could play right there. Halo 1 on the Xbox, right there. GameCube, Super Smash Melee, right there. It was right there. 360 was basically the same. PS3, but now we're starting to push it. And then I think from Gen 8 on, it was just like they lost the plot. They lost the
PS4
plot.
upwards. Yeah, PS2 was probably for me at least, the best generation.
Yeah, fantastic console.
Yeah,
fantastic generation. I think those games are amazing. And what's interesting is I think a lot of them actually hold up.
Oh, for sure.
And we're seeing that because a lot of games are being remade.
And MGS3, like it's incredible how they hold up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And my only wish would be that the gaming community would come together to realize this, and that it's not a negative. Like we live in a world where like midnight launches should be a thing. It's such good PR.
Yeah.
You know, like line through the down the street for everyone trying to buy the latest Warhammer or Grand Theft Auto, whatever.
GTA 4, my goodness, that's crazy.
For sure GTA 6 is going to have a midnight launch, and it should. It's going to be good.
They have to.
I don't understand why they're trying to get away from this. No one's going to go to a midnight launch these days for a piece of plastic. Yeah. That you could just wait on your digital, schedule it. It's not. So
it's not the same.
I think there's ways to save everything. There's not a single con and problem I've ever said in this podcast that I don't think is fixable. But I don't know. They never want to do it. I've actually reached out to a lot of higher ups in the gaming space to like talk to them, to include them in videos. They never answer. Maybe they will now. If you guys are listening, which we know you are, okay.
If you're listening,
hit us up.
Speak to Goose, and then let's hop on my podcast as well.
That's it.
Oh wow! But that's incredible. That first of all, you know what? I think the higher ups, they should answer. Like I really think. Let's take Valve as an example. Like Gabe Newell receives, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of emails. Chances are he'll respond to you, man. You know,
he does. There's a good couple of stories of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the way you should be. I think that's the example you should look at.
Yep, 1,000%.
Every single game they touch is amazing. It's great.
Yep.
Like, why don't they look at them? Like, it's just mind blowing to me.
It is mind blowing. I mean, go outside of games. Say what you will about the guy like Elon Musk, like whatever, however people feel about him. There's so many updates in his products that come from discussions on Twitter. There's a mode on Tesla cars, vehicles, that's called, I think, like Bob mode. And it came from a guy on Twitter saying, hey, when I reverse, like the beep is too loud, could you make it so it's not as loud because it annoys my kids when I'm driving them to school?
Oh, wow.
And so they added it and they called it Bob mode. Could you imagine any game developer doing that? Like they just don't.
No. It's scary to imagine that. You know what I mean? At this point, it's so, like you're right. It's so closed. They're so far away from the gamers. The creators of these AAA titles are so far away from the gamers that it's just forget about it.
100%. I mean, we're seeing in Ubisoft case, a lot of the times they just blame the gamers. I read an article on stream about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown flopping and saying like gamers were the problem. Here's a good Prince of Persia game, and it's just like gamers should have bought it. If it's such a good game, they should have bought it, but they didn't buy it. Gamers are the problem. It's like, look, brother, if you make a God of War game, make it a Metroidvania, and make it star Atreus instead of Kratos, it will not sell as well,
Yeah, for
if
sure.
at all. Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? It's not gamers. Like, that would be the equivalent of me making a YouTube video, no one watching it, and being like, YouTube people are the problems. No, I just didn't listen to what people wanted, and that's the problem.
I heard the same kind of tweets about Concord. Some of the developers were actually blaming the gaming community for the fact that the game, wasn't as good as it was supposed to be. What a fail that was, man. Like $400 million, I think they spent on this game, 5 or 6 years in development, and just in 2 weeks gone. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, whoa, dude. Like, it hurts me. Honestly.
Yeah, like, that's the thing with that thing. Like, the numbers are all over the place with that game, but overall, it's a brand new IP. You made, like, the beta pay to play when it went in beta. It was like you had to pay to get in originally. Yeah. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why
and
you
the
do
game
like,
is paid,
why?
Not free as well. It's,
like, new IPs are possible, but like, again, these big companies, you guys got to take strategic risks. And if I said to you, hey, Sony, I want to make an Overwatch clone that looks like, Destiny with like characters no one ever heard of, it's going to be the next Star Wars. Sony should have been like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
There's no way that's going
me?
to work. I mean, it could work, not to say it couldn't, because there are cases like Overwatch obviously came out and was huge, but it came out in a world where hero shooters were not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it can happen, but why would you take that risk at that size with your employees? You want to be safe. And that's the thing. Like, when I make content, I'll put a tweet. Oh, it does well. Okay. I'll make a clip on my stream. Okay, that one did well too. That's 2 for 2. Okay, let's make a more well-produced YouTube short. How did that do? They all banged. Like, for instance, that's a great example. I talked about how Fortnite basically forced crossplay into existence. That's like, crossplay the way it is today is because of a bug Epic dropped on Fortnite by accident. And that story always stuck with me. Now everybody does crossplay across PlayStation, Xbox consoles, and PC. That was not a thing before Fortnite dropped that bug and then showed people it was possible. And so I talked about that on stream. I said, not a lot of people know this, and I started talking about it. And so the stream liked it. It was like, at the time, like, I just started streaming this year with no promotion, so it was not that many people, but I clipped it. I put it on Instagram and TikTok. It explodes. It does like 40K views. Okay, interesting. For me, that was an explosion. I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I said, well, this popped. Let me make a full short, and I'll just write it better. Like, let me well produce it for the channel. I'll do that. Okay. Do the same thing. Again, did well in the stream. Did well on a clip. I cut the clip, but put music. It did well with captions. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to make a well-produced short. Like, it's similar to my videos, just in a short. 2 million views.
Oh, wow. On the short. Incredible.
Content is effectively a marketplace of ideas. And the games are no different. Games are no different. And so you need to test these things. And these giant mega companies don't test. They just YOLO. Like, it's like, fine, okay. But if your game takes 6 to 10 years to make, like, $500 million, like $500 million, and your employees' lives, like, depend on it, you could YOLO.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, don't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. So that's my big problem with the gaming industry. And Valve, you mentioned Valve. Valve's a killer of that. Valve tests things like crazy. Like, they're testing Deadlock right now.
I was going to say about Deadlock. Yeah, what a crazy story about Deadlock. It's insane. Like, when I found out what they're doing and that the game is not even out yet, and there's like maybe hundreds of thousands of people playing it, and I'm in the Discord, They're writing every day. They're updating every day. The game,
Yep.
I have never lost so much sleep over an online shooter as I have Deadlock in the past few years.
It's good.
The more it's insanely
Oh, I gotta
amazing.
play it.
It is. I truly recommend it for you, Goose. The thing is, I am of the same opinion like you about games, and when it comes to online shooters, man, I can play it for maybe a week or two. And today
Same.
I don't even touch them because I know that like
Same.
all this omni movement stuff, the guy's gonna be swinging with a baseball bat on
Yeah.
my face. I won't even know what's happening. But this game, I got into it. My friend was like, look, no tutorial, just get into it.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what was going on. First 2 times I played it, I said, this is the worst game I've ever played in my life. What are you doing to me, man? Like, what is this? He's like, wait, let it sink in. I was sleeping the second day. I'm like, what if I do this? But what if I do that? But what if I... And then everything opened up, and it's sheer enjoyment. Sheer enjoyment. It is so strategic, so tactical. Anybody can play. There's no pay to win. There's no attachments that help you. It's pure skill.
Yeah.
Like pure skill. And absolute teamwork and strategy. And when you play with people who you don't know, everybody talks through the chat. Everybody tries to win the game. There's no toxicity. I have, I think, over 150 games. Not even one toxic, what's it called? Interaction within the team.
That's
Just
awesome.
epic. After this podcast, I'm gonna go play one game. So
Nice.
definitely get into it. And I'm sure you would like it. But if you never have you played Dota or games like that?
Yeah, I got big into Dota for a while.
Okay, so for you, it's going to be
so
like the rules of the game are going to be way easier for you to understand. I was not that big into Dota, so understanding like souls and the jungle and mining and all those things were a bit new to me. But you got to try it out, man. It's been a little over 2 hours. It's getting a little bit late here where I am.
Yeah, me too.
I'm
You
like,
can see it's getting dark.
Yeah. Thank you so very much for the talk. I think, you're one of those people with whom I can probably chat, over like a dinner for hours and hours. It was so insightful, so interesting to get to know your story. It was also very interesting to kind of dig into your head about your thoughts on the gaming industry. And to be honest, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. There's definitely room to speak more, but maybe for another time.
Definitely.
And I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm wishing you nothing but success, nothing but the best. And, just keep going forward as you always did. Thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you for having me. It was an amazing time. It's an amazing podcast. I loved every second of it, and I can't wait to see. I can't wait to watch you grow, man. It's gonna be awesome. I'm
you.
excited.
Thank you so much, Gus. Thank you. Means a lot coming from you.